There is a part of yourself that has never forgotten its origins, where it's come from, and it's never forgotten the divine plan. We had fires to gather around. We had stories to tell. We had rituals and ceremonies. The root of some of our shadow is individualism. We've forgotten our interconnectivity.
Meet Tara Dao, founder of the Center of Destiny, an intuitive healer and love and intimacy coach who transforms generational patterns, awakening deeper, soul-connected love as a catalyst for creative and spiritual evolution.
When you are actually getting really close to that substance, that uniqueness of your spirit, your purpose, your dharma, it's almost like the higher you go, the more the shadow arises.
Why is that? What is intuition? How do you connect to it?
It's the duality. It's the yin and the yang that creates life, and it's how we know anything.
What are the current collective shadows in our society?
This automatic way, almost like muscle memory of way of connection or being in the world, which never really allows people to feel the depth of intimacy that is possible in human connection.
How do we have both? How do we not sacrifice our health and mental well-being to have success or a career or achieve a dream?
How important it is to create a world that we would want our children to live in.
Welcome, Tara. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Visionary Voices. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you so much, Karina, for having me on. It's an honor to be one of the voices.
Let's do a quick intro of who you are, what are you most passionate about, what lights you up, and also what are you currently involved in life?
I am a psychosomatic coach, meaning that I work with psychology, somatics, to essentially help people evolve into the more authentic versions of themselves. We do this through many different modalities, many different ways, one-on-one coaching, with retreats, with workshops, with online courses, a ton of different ways to essentially merge the divine self, the higher self, wherever it is that someone is being guided towards in their destiny. And also integrating the shadow and integrating anything that is in the way or creating resistance for them to live as that version of themselves that they sense is calling them. And so I work with people in a very multidimensional way. There's so many elements of the human journey that we address, like ancestral healing, being able to connect to the invisible, the unseen realms, the spiritual realms, the intuition, and it's a full spectrum way to essentially live more with your spirit and your higher self living through you, embodied in your human day-to-day. Yeah.
Beautiful. So let's dive straight in. Let's dive into the shadow and the limitations we have and the darker sides of ourselves that are sometimes really hard to go into. Tell us, why is it so crucial to embrace all of us, and especially these darker sides that are so uncomfortable to go into and feel the pain, feel the darkness, get scared? Yeah, why is it so important for our healing process and also to live in wholeness and spiritual wholeness and liberation?
I think that anyone who is listening to your podcast has probably already chosen to live in a way where they're willing to grow and evolve. Not everybody is willing to grow and evolve on this planet right now, but at some point we will get so uncomfortable with the ways that our shadow is ruling our lives unconsciously, whether we know it or not, to the point where we have to really start looking at ourselves and seeing the parts of ourselves that are creating these situations and repeating these patterns in our lives. And so it is so important, but just remembering that not everybody chooses the path of shadow work. Not everybody is here to really integrate the shadow. Even in spiritual community, sometimes we can bypass the shadow altogether, but it will show up in your life regardless. Sometimes when it's like the curtains close and we're done socializing and it's just you in your room and it's an uncomfortable place to be, that's when your shadow comes up. It shows up in our relationships, especially our romantic partnerships. You will know your shadow by entering relationship with someone because it's mirrored back to you. It's everything that we have essentially denied, repressed, suppressed, avoided, rejected about us. Because at some point we learned that it wasn't safe to have these parts of us visible in the world. So underneath the shadow is innocence. It's just love trying to protect itself. The shadow can be your best friend. It can be your ally. Sometimes I think that your greatest path is directly through the shadow. Sometimes the obstacle, the thing that's difficult, is your path, and it requires you to sort of just face it and go through it. But oftentimes there's actually a ton of ways in which we avoid doing the deeper work. We can meditate all the time, and that doesn't necessarily mean that we're integrating some of these deeper unconscious things that are asking us to make real radical change in our lives and to show up differently. There's tons of ways that we just honestly distract ourselves from the deeper work.
Of course.
Yeah. And I think the shadow integration is so powerful because it essentially makes you so whole that in some way you're free, you're liberated, you're no longer afraid of any aspects of you, which means that you're not afraid of life, which means that you've accepted all of you, that there's nothing that you're rejecting. So who you get to show up as in life is authentic. There's nothing to hide. There's nothing to reject. There's nothing to suppress anymore. It's just the moment that you've accepted yourself fully is the moment that you can reveal to the world. You can reveal to your community, your relationships, the people in your life who you truly are, the shadow, the light, the complexity of you. And I think the best, most safest places, relationships, and people are the ones who know that we all have a shadow. That's the truth. And I think it's oftentimes, it's easy to see someone's shadow, and it's easy sometimes to see our own shadow, but seeing our light and seeing the light in others is a whole nother game. It's a whole nother step up. You can often see people's lack or see your own lack, but seeing someone's fullness, seeing their soul, especially if maybe they don't feel that or they haven't connected to it fully, I think that's the best way to walk each other home and call each other forward into our greatness. It's holding each other in our highest, actually, because when you're connected to the highest, it's almost like the higher you go, the more the shadow arises.
Why is that?
I think that when you are orbiting, like when your being is orbiting closer to your purpose, your dharma, why you signed up to come to this earth school, when you're actually getting really close to that substance, that uniqueness of your spirit, you found something unique in your voice. You found a type of artistry or creativity that can only come through you in a way that it cannot come through anyone else. It means that you're actually getting close to your light, like that bright, shiny light. And sometimes that amount of light is hard to handle. Sometimes our bodies literally do not have the capacity to hold that much light yet. Sometimes we don't have the capacity to hold that much abundance or that much love, And when we don't have the capacity for that, it creates fear. We're afraid of it. We don't know what it's like. And so anything that's connected to, smaller aspects of ourselves that don't feel in alignment with that much light or with those things that we're orbiting closer to, it's going to get even louder. Resistance might come. We might even sabotage some of the things that are coming close to us, right?
Right. It's also new, right?
Yeah,
Like
it's new.
New, unknown, and even though it's light, and in theory, illuminates us and everyone around us in the world. So how do we get through the darkness? How do we make ourselves face our darkness instead of compulsively running away from it and distracting ourselves from it? And while we logically understand that it's necessary to embrace both sides of us, it's still very, 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 very hard.
I know.
Especially in those dark moments, to sit with it, sit in the pain, endure all of the emotions, especially when they're really painful or fearful or lower frequencies, as we say. Yeah. The only way out is through, but it can be really hard. So how can we make ourselves even understand that it's necessary to sit through? That that's the only way to fully, go through the emotions and find acceptance in this process, and then let them naturally kind of go away again.
Yeah. I think the only way that we can all do that is, it sounds so cliche, but it's through love. It's definitely through love. Because oftentimes when we're faced with our shadow, there will be other parts of us that judge the fact that we have a shadow, will criticize ourselves. There might even be a voice like, oh, I just wish that I could get over this thing. Like, why are you like this? Why am I like this? Why has God given me this thing, Yeah. And I think the truth is, the only way to get through it is to bring forward these healthier, more mature parts of you. Like, for example, the archetype of the inner mother, or the inner father, the inner queen, the inner king, the inner magician. It's to call upon a higher force that is you. You just haven't played with it that much yet. But you've got to be able to resource from a part of you that can hold the most scared parts of you. Because essentially, the scared parts of you were programmed by a child anyways. And sometimes they were programmed far beyond our own childhood. They were ancestral. We hold 14 generations of ancestral information in our DNA. And so somewhere along the line, if, for example, right, if someone has a shadow, AKA it's me, like something that I have dealt with, let's just give a real example of how I've worked through a shadow.
Yeah.
One of my deepest shadows in this lifetime was my voice. So the irony of like visionary voices, having this conversation, just flowing, yeah? For most of my life, I was the girl at the talent show, sitting in the seats, watching everybody else on stage. And I just wanted to literally fly out of my body. Like, all I wanted to do was get on stage and share my voice and sing.
Yeah.
But I had something much more powerful holding me back. I had the desire, but my shadow, my trauma, my unconscious somatics, it was just like, you can't get up there. And yes, that has a lot to do with some things in my own childhood, but I know, especially as an Asian woman, my grandmother, her history, knowing what she's been through, voice was not something that she was afforded or comfortable expressing. And so down the line of ancestors, I know that there's been other ancestors who suppressed their voices, right? That was their shadow. And some chose to keep it suppressed. They chose to do the safe thing and stay small, while I also understand that some ancestors absolutely changed those patterns, just like me, a pattern disruptor. Yeah. And so I understand that there's both the shadow, the light, the ancestors who, were wise and totally broke the cycles of shadow, and then some who chose that safety. And both are valid, both come from love. So it's the same, just knowing whoever's listening to this and dealing with something that they're holding on to, they're holding back from. Maybe they have a deep intuition about something in their life. They're being called by something, and it's literally bringing up all of the fear, the safety, insecurity, survival. Maybe it's not even so dramatic. Maybe it's like we're just playing a little bit smaller than we really could. Or maybe it's like we're not saying fully the thing that we want to say. Sometimes it's even more subtle than like, I'm in complete fear. It works in different degrees, Yeah. I would say that The only way out is to love through it. No shame, no guilt. We cannot change through shame and guilt. It's through loving and nurturing the aspects of you that are scared, that have their reasons for diluting themselves, that have their reasons for protecting themselves, and then essentially making connection between those parts of you and these more mature, evolved parts of you that actually have the capacity to hold those smaller parts and say, wow, babe, like, I totally get why you would be scared when this happened to you. I totally know that that shut down your voice. You lost trust in yourself when they said this to you.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry that that has happened to you. I would love to create an environment where we get to practice and play with that around safe people. You know, I would love to encourage you until you feel confident. So it's always that nurturing. It's like a mother.
It's like parenting
Parenting
yourself,
yourself.
basically.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Being the mother or father you never had, maybe,
Yes,
possibly.
exactly.
And kind of nurturing your inner child in a way, or different parts of your inner child, and different, I mean, we all have so many different parts and characters in us. Like you said, the mother, the daughter, the magician, the father even, the creator.
Yes.
Or the wounded child that doesn't step up onto the stage even though it really wants to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And isn't it so interesting how when you zoom out and you just take the peripheral of you and all these different parts of you and all these different characters and identities, they are really just narratives. They're just stories that we keep putting energy towards and feeding, right? And of course, the ones that are dreamy and the ones that are like, wow, is it possible that I could really be that or do that?
Yeah.
You know, those are more uncomfortable because it's new. Like you said, it's the thing we're not comfortable with. But I find it really fun, honestly, to see sometimes when I'm embodying something different, to play into it like a character.
Right. And it's all about what character we feed the most in a way, feed the most energy and attention and focus that will grow organically. So, I mean, we are in control in a way to even like direct towards our own wounds and heal them if we follow our intuition, especially.
Yes.
I mean, in your opinion, so I have two questions actually to kind of go still into the shadow. In your opinion, what are the current collective shadows in our society? I mean, there's obviously individual shadows that we all have, still tied to generations and ancestry. And there's also collective shadows, right? Like this collective pain of woman that I felt on psychedelica. Suddenly it was much, much bigger than me. So I couldn't even hold it. It was just too much. Or like a collective, there's different collective shadows. How do you see them, or what do you see currently in our society?
Yeah, it's interesting because you said obviously there's individual shadows, but then there's collective shadow. And even in that word individual, I think that the root of some of our shadow is individualism. We've forgotten our interconnectivity, that our life impacts and ripples out to everyone else.
Yeah.
And I think some of these collective shadows come from people who, again, everything is a plea for love. Like, you know, everything. So I can see with the compassionate lens, everything is love, right? And I think that a lot of people, in order to feel safe, to have what they need, such as money, wealth, power, you know, leadership, whatever that is, the old paradigm uses fear, uses separation, uses a ton of ways to create separation in people. And we become at war with each other.
Yeah.
There's the left side, there's the right side, there's them, and then there's us.
And it's so ironic because all of us are just looking for love, literally. And instead of shortcutting to love, to light, to peace, to harmony, we're creating all of these illusionary stories in the search of love, and then we get lost somewhere else.
Exactly. And if we were to all really come together, I think it would be so incredibly powerful that those who are afraid of collective power over individual power would cease to have power, which is why collectively right now it's coming up even more, this like need to control, this need to make sure that like our team, our tribe, our person is the strongest or has the most XYZ,
Yeah.
right? I also think that collectively we're all very afraid of just being transparent, telling the truth, being authentic. Like if we just like zoom it down to more human and not so political,
Yeah.
I think a collective shadow is that a lot of us are in relationships with each other's parts, meaning not all the time in our relationships, in community, at our work, is it the authentic self talking to another authentic self. It's sometimes these programs or these again, the characters that we're playing, this automaton, this automatic way, almost like muscle memory of way of connection or being in the world, which never really allows people to feel the depth of intimacy that is possible in human connection.
Yeah.
So it's almost as if like there's the thing that we're connecting over and that we're saying that's like at the surface, but there's like 20 layers deeper that
For
we
sure.
could really go. But the most of the time when we're talking to people, the way that we function in our day, we're like yearning for that depth. We're yearning for that deeper connection, to see ourselves in the other, to know what's really going on, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But then it's like we're just so used to like just saying the comfortable thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And the biggest problem is we're getting used to, like, okay, in society, we do need to play different roles to function in society. We do need to wear different masks sometimes.
Yes.
You know, we can't be at work the same exactly like we're at home or with our partner, and behave the same with our kids like we behave with our best friend,
Great
girlfriend.
point.
So we do have different roles to play in our life. But the problem is if we are getting used to one specific mask too much, we kind of forget to take it off sometimes. It becomes like, you know, this false identity that we take now everywhere, and then we don't even remember who we truly are beneath that role, beneath that mask. Yeah, so we're getting used to these even our false self almost.
Yeah.
And then that becomes the norm, and it's really hard to kind of go back and then lose this identity. For some people it's scary, because if you live with a false identity for many years, 20 years, 30 years, it's like that's who you think you are, that's all you are. You forgot about the different roles even.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. I love that point so much of like who you are at work doesn't need to be the way that you're a father. You know, those are
Right.
completely different things that
Yeah.
have different needs and requirements, right? I also think that in this modern world, this notion of survival and the reason why a lot of people stay in these false identities is because they're in fear of like, would I be able to survive as
Right.
my authentic, relaxed, creative self?
Well, you're definitely more attackable. The more vulnerable you are, the more open, the more relaxed you are, the slower is your response and fight and flight instincts, and in your awareness, you're just relaxed, right? So you're more easily to be attacked. So yeah, a lot of people right now in our society, they're constantly living, like the norm is in this really fast-paced, stressed, the nervous system is always so far up.
Yes.
We're always aware, constantly watching for threats.
Yes.
And I mean, that's not our natural state, obviously. And if we then forget to ever relax and come back to our natural, true self.
Yes. And I think that's why it's so important for the visionaries to continue following their callings and continue setting a new template to show humanity and to show the world that it is absolutely possible to be successful holistically, to have what it is that you need, to be authentic, to not have to sacrifice your soul, you know?
Oof. Yeah.
It's so important right now as humanity is moving the needle on our collective story to keep doubling down on our truth, our creativity, the things that we are bringing to this world, the impact that we can make, because it's completely redefining our planet and the consciousness on this planet. And that's exactly right, because a lot of people, I'm in the retreat world, right? So I witness the beauty and just the profound transformation that happens at a retreat. Because why? It's a designated window of time with guidance, facilitators, probably a dreamy, beautiful, landscape where there's such supportive nature and all of these different things, right? It's easy to be your highest self in those situations. The integration is being able to bring some of that wisdom and bring what you found into your daily life, into your parenting, into your relationships, your work, your projects. That's where, the retreats are really supposed to serve that. And I think that it really takes those of us that are, it's like you were saying, like just like a psychedelic journey, a medicine journey, it totally widens our perspective. We see what we once could not. We make the unconscious conscious. We get guidance from interdimensional, otherworldly spaces. And it's so important to remember that, like, that is not separate from your daily life. That your mundane, there is magic in the mundane. It's the chop wood, carry water, and that's where it really counts. It really counts. And it doesn't mean that you have to feel as blissful as you feel, in these medicine journeys or retreats all the time in your daily life. But if you practice a little more of what you've learned, like mindfulness, patience with your relationship, patience with your children, if you take a step back and regulate yourself before you have that meeting or have that conversation, imagine how that would go then, I just think if we just give ourselves space, give ourselves more space. I always say, like, if I'm dysregulated, my first priority is to get regulated, because anything that ripples from that place is probably not going to come from the best place. I don't need to judge it. I also think there's plenty of reasons why sometimes we need to get dysregulated, because there are some things in life that actually call forth that type of energy. It's not always being about, like, just peaceful.
And also it's not possible anyway.
It's not possible anyways.
So.
Exactly. And it's like, just noticing. It's like noticing what's coming up for you, taking the space to get into that better place, and then go from there. Even just those simple pauses are like life-changing.
Yes, I love that. And I also loved how you brought awareness to this, to creating a new type of living and leadership, and create this middle way of it is possible to have it all, basically. It is possible to be successful in your holistic area in life, in your wellness, in your well-being, in your health, and it's still possible at the same time to have a successful business. And I mean, this is what intrigues and fascinates me right now the most, to learn from people who have actually managed to create both and hold both at the same time. It's not easy at all, because also we get usually programmed. I got programmed. I know you need to choose. Either you're relaxed and you don't achieve nothing in life and you just live as a hippie and travel the world with no money, or you just focus hardcore on a career and you just follow this one goal, and then you'll reach success in this specific area.
Right.
And it's like, no, there needs to be another way, because obviously only this doesn't work, and only this we see also doesn't work. The most successful CEOs and executives and, Fortune 500 companies, leaders, CEOs, a lot of them, like, we are surprised when someone commits suicide that was really, really high in our societal system per se, had a lot of material possessions, success. And I love this idea of creating a new wave of new, more conscious leadership, of including more parts of ourselves, and be aware that we have different parts of ourselves, and at the same time also create different areas of our life simultaneously. Not just, It's always the saying, where attention goes, energy flows. And that's what we're building, creating a life. And I agree, we need focus to successfully build something. But yeah, it's about how do we have both? How do we not sacrifice our health and mental well-being and wellness to have success or a career or achieve a dream or goal?
Yeah, I think that's it. It's like, I think of the saying of integrating opposites.
Yes.
So it's the integration of opposites. What you spoke to is like the middle path.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be so extreme.
Yeah.
A lot of us are living in black and white, you know?
Yeah.
When actually things can be much more gray. And I am totally with you that the whole idea that you can't have a beautiful family life at home, that you can't have beautiful relationships while also being like the head of the company, you know, making this much money. Like, it almost seems like the old paradigm is exactly what you said. It separates the two.
Yeah.
And I really believe that in these coming times, people who are listening to this podcast, our communities, you know, the visionaries are creating this third door, like these middle paths where we merge these different worlds and build bridges. And I think that that's it. I know for myself, like I've been totally at different swings of the pendulum. Like there were times in my life where I was just doing ayahuasca, bathing naked at the river.
More hippie life and freedom and full
Exactly.
expression of yourself, and who cares?
Absolutely. And if you come from a place of like totally not having that freedom and you're discovering what that is in your life,
You need to go to the extreme.
Please.
All the way to fully feel it and live it and express it to the fullest. And only then you'll come down eventually. Probably.
and come a little bit towards the middle. The pendulum won't swing so far.
Yes.
And then you'll be like, for example, for me, I left the world of marketing and advertising. And seemingly, you know, it's like my life took a totally different route. I went into energy work and coaching and spirituality and mediumship and intuition. But marketing is also probably why we're here right now, because you had to find me to some degree somehow.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like those things don't go away. But at one point, I was like, that version of me, she's dead, you know?
Right.
But at the end of the day, she's still with me, and actually, she created me.
Yeah.
So she's pretty awesome to be have been able to like do all that. But it's about like the integration of these opposites, the integration of these different parts. And I really feel like no matter where you're at in the journey, you will be able to look back and say every part of you was totally valid and absolutely necessary for your evolution.
Yeah, I wonder why we humans love extremes so much, and then also the only way out is through. Like, we do need to live out those extremes. When we feel our highest excitement is to travel the world, then that's what we need to do at this given moment until it's out of our system. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, follow our highest passion, our excitement, and eventually maybe we need to naturally find the balance. There's also a big misconception of people forcefully trying to stay in balance, in harmony, you know. So I see that a lot in the spiritual world, to like meditate every day and be calm every day. It didn't really work for me for a long time, because our nature, also our soul's craving adventure and like break out of some rules and limitations and try new things and go into the unknown, to grow and expand. That's, to me, that's like a law of nature, of the universe. Everything is constantly moving and expanding and changing. So if we try to hold on to this peace even, and try to stand still in a totally changing environment all the time,
This
you know?
is so true. That is so true. And I think that you're speaking to this different way that we are relating to spirituality, which is maybe at some point a little bit more about leaving the body. It was about disconnection. It's about maybe not going deep into the emotions, deep into the shadow, but finding, you know, your center through all of that. And I think that at the end of the day, that is always going to stand the test of time as medicine for all of us. But there is something about the descent of energy instead of like the ascent of like body wanting to become spirit again, you know, human trying to become its spirit again. What if it's spirit trying to be more in the human body, taking up more space in the body,
Yeah.
in the human experience, you know? And I think you make a really good point of, yeah, maybe it's not always about meditating or always having to be clear, always having to be in the center, but allowing the messiness of your humanity to be divine and to see it as a divine experience, you know? Because it's the most spiritual thing is to be able to observe what's
Right.
happening.
Right.
Like, wow, I'm observing my human doing some really, really radical stuff. That is amazing, you know? That is
Yeah.
why you've come to Earth. You
Yeah.
came to Earth because you wanted to experience the fullness of emotion, the fullness of relationships, sexuality, yummy food, like all the things, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
But then again, you and I are the black and white, the balance, never so much in excess that you lose the center. It's like there's going to be different medicine that you need in different seasons of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really feel like if you've swung that way, then maybe you swing a little bit this way and then
Yeah.
find yourself in the middle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's talk really quick about intuition. What role does intuition play in your life? And most importantly, what is intuition in your opinion? And how do you connect to it? How does it serve you as inner guidance?
Yeah. I feel like intuition is the aspect of yourself that has never forgotten its origins, where it's come from, and it's never forgotten the divine plan. Like there is a part of yourself, there is an inner teacher, there is an inner guide, an inner spirit guide that lives in you, that speaks through intuition, that is always sort of trying to carry you through the river. Like I love using intuition, merging intuition and the analogy of a river, because the river is always naturally flowing in a certain direction. And this is destiny. Like, what if destiny is already carrying you? Now, there's a lot of nuance because if you look deeply into some of your coding through like human design, there are some people who have more free will than others. That's like a whole different conversation that I've learned through a friend of mine. But if we just make it broad, you know, destiny is a thing that is carrying you. A lot of times when we don't connect to where our intuition is guiding us, it's just because there's a bunch of like sticks and boulders and rocks that have gathered up in the river that's not allowing the water to flow freely as it is meant to. And I feel like if you're connected to intuition, it's the water. It's the water that's always trying to move you, push you along, guide you through the river, you know?
What are the sticks and rocks?
Other people's opinions, the voices that we have adopted from society, from entertainment, about who we should be, all of the noise, the distraction, the shadow, everything that we've talked about, some of the ancestral, you know, inheritance that we're sorting through.
Generational trauma.
Intergenerational trauma, living a human life. Like there's so much that we need to give ourselves compassion for, of like how much capacity we all really have in this modern age. And so those sticks and those rocks, they gather up and the energy isn't moving naturally. And so sometimes we might stay stuck in a certain pattern or stay stuck in a relationship, stay stuck doing some type of work that we're not passionate about, that isn't really requiring our fullest potential, that we check out of we just go through the motions. That's not intuition. Like intuition speaks through, first of all, clarity and simplicity, but intuition is likely going to make you uncomfortable. A lot of people think that intuition is like the 1111 on your or on your oven, you know, or the 333 license plate that you saw. That's beautiful. It's so true. We can affirm through the universe, through the mirror of reality, all the time of like, wow, I'm affirming that this is the right path to go, right? But sometimes the signs come in beautiful ways, but where it's guiding you towards might be uncomfortable, because where intuition is guiding you is towards your growth, your soul lessons, what you've come here to learn as a student of life, you know? In this earth school. And so it's going to lead you to places that you haven't been, or places where you're not complete yet, and places where you're going to meet your edges. I am a North Node in Scorpio. I'm totally like I have to go through the shadow, you know, to really feel the light. And I feel that the more beauty that I experience in my life, the more synchronicities, the more alignment, the beautiful invitations, whatever that is, it's every time I have met my shadow. And it was my intuition that called me to that new thing. Like, my intuition has called me to many different places in the world at different times.
Quick question. How does your intuition come through to you? In form of a voice, a feeling, an inner... A lot of people say it's their gut feeling. Some people say it's their soul speaking. Some people hear their inner voice. How does it come through to you?
I love that. Everyone has a different word for it. Yeah, everyone. Everyone has a different way of connecting to it. I've always been quite clairvoyant. I'm also clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient. So when I was like 23 years old, I studied with psychic mediums. I was the youngest person in the group. When my friends were partying, I was like connecting to other people's deceased loved ones.
What?
You know? Like, so in me has been a long time of like developing intuition. I think at this point, it's more so of just like a knowing, like I'm in direct communion with the universe. I am creating from intuition. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to go here at this time, and then all of these things are going to take place.
So it's a feeling.
It's a feeling.
Like in your body? Or...
Yeah. It's so interesting. It's a really good question. I think, I feel like I'm someone who likes to track the signs. If I see things like a certain place, right? Or a certain opportunity over and over again, at this point, I don't need to see it over and over again to know, but it's like you want to notice everything in your reality as a non-coincidence. Like, a lot of the time, people are literally in such automatic living, and we assume that everything around us is outside of ourselves, that it's some reality that we just live in. But what if the truth is your soul is projecting out through its consciousness a reality based off of your perception? And so what if nothing is by accident? Everything is by your own design? So if that is true, then everything is your intuition. Everything has a sign. Everything is trying to show you something about yourself, especially people. Like, whatever projections you have of other people, whatever idea you think you have of someone, the meaning you're assigning to situations, it's all information.
Right.
It's all information for you to integrate and understand yourself through.
It's so true. Yes, and also we gravitate and kind of feel this magnetism towards specific people that somehow, when we do connect, they always serve some kind of inner growth for our soul. So our soul was, or our frequency was kind of either matching or curious and why is this person so different than me? And that's growth again, you know? So yeah, our soul is craving for growth, I think. So we do tend to gravitate towards places, lessons, situations, people especially, that can provide us some insight, some tools, some growth. Sometimes even dissonance to, again, understand some parts about ourselves better.
That's it. So like when it comes to intuition, just not seeing yourself separate from anything. If everything is you, if the way that you're perceiving everything is you, that's all intuition, you know? And so I just notice the subtleties. I notice my reality. I notice what people are saying. Sometimes you can meet a stranger and they just said something that's like totally the thing that you needed to hear,
Yeah.
right? Or you come across a book and you open it to a certain page and it has a certain line for you. And it's just about noticing. I think for me, I'm always noticing reality as a mirror of my own soul or myself. And I'm just taking it in and asking myself, okay, so what is that showing me? Where am I being called? Yeah, I know that's a really like nuanced way to explain it, but yeah,
That
I
makes
would say
sense.
it does, like, because like it's all of these different receptors, the clairaudience, the hearing, the voice of your soul,
Yeah.
the felt sense of like, oh my gosh, like that feels soulful, like that feels like me,
Yeah.
or like that vision that you can see like in your dreams or when you close your eyes, it all comes together to sort of keep guiding you, you know? And I would say that for me personally, I'm always the one, my whole life, I've traveled so much. I, there's a lot of learning. I think my pendulum has gone this way, so my pendulum is going this way a little bit.
Yeah.
But I followed my intuition through and through,
Yeah.
like no question. And it has absolutely aligned me with opportunities and situations that were 100% destined for my evolution. And that was because I got comfortable getting uncomfortable. It was traveling the world, signing up for this workshop or this retreat or this training or, you know, asking for help, you know?
What helped you the most, seeing very uncomfortable situations as lessons for your spiritual growth? If you could talk to anyone that is listening that is going through some real discomfort right now, some pain, some, yeah, just this discomfort, what would you advise them to get through?
Well, I would say first and foremost that they are not alone. And oftentimes, I think that when we are in a dark night of the soul, when it feels like we have no idea how we will get out of it,
Yeah.
we cannot see the light of day.
Yeah.
And it seems like, why do I keep ending up here? Or, wow, could it get worse than this? It really is in those moments that I believe the light of your soul is forged. Like, don't give up. The solution is to never say like, I'm just gonna give up, I don't care anymore. Like, it's very easy. Some of those voices of the shadow or intergenerational trauma, when we meet those deep shadows in us, it can create a desire just to check out
Yeah.
altogether.
To be numb and not feel all this
Yes.
overwhelming pain.
Yes, exactly, because it's so overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I think in those moments, you know, internally, it is first and foremost one of the most powerful energies in the world is acceptance. You cannot resist that which you accept. So sometimes it's our resistance to our pain, fighting it, that creates even more pain. So maybe the first thing to do is like, I'm in acceptance that I'm in a really dark place right now. I'm very uncomfortable. And then somehow the body is like, oh, at least you're not fighting that anymore. At least you're listening to me, you know, and then it kind of relaxes a little bit like, wow, I can accept that, okay? And then in that acceptance, maybe you're like, wow, I remember that I saw that post or I saw that person tell me about that book that one time to read. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Now it's time to call in some support. The universe is abundant with human beings who have walked each other home, who have all been through this spiral of the human journey. All of us at some point have been in the dark night of the soul. There will be
Yeah.
many different iterations of that, as will some of the greatest victories of your
Yeah.
soul.
Yeah.
And it's like, just remember that your story is no different than every other human. Some people are like really good at hiding it. Some people might never tell you that they've been deeply vulnerable, but we all have, and that's the truth. And so if you're uncomfortable, I would say first and foremost, go to the places and seek the people, seek places to share and be honest about what you're going through with people that you feel safe with and that you feel have the capacity to meet you in those depths. Because the worst thing is if you're in a really uncomfortable place, if you're looking for support in the wrong places,
Yes.
it's even more disheartening.
And it can even re-traumatize and create new wounds and disconnect your trust even more from anything in the world and people. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's beautiful what you said about the acceptance. I truly resonated with that because I think this is the key, and the process of finding acceptance automatically creates some space to the pain. While you try to find acceptance, you're already shifting your focus away from the pain. So, and this space to your emotions, especially those really dark, deep, painful ones, this is crucial. This is exactly what you need. Because being too close, too attached, and holding with tension onto them, this is creating the pain. But once you naturally are able to, at least a little bit, lift yourself up naturally, by shifting your focus into, how can I work this through? Like already looking up a little bit,
Totally. And just to add to that, when I heard you speak, you're talking about like even just the subtlest shifts can mean everything.
Yeah.
And when I think of like these other subtle shifts, I think of nature. I think of what's natural. I think of the elements. I think of the water, the fire, the earth, the air. I think of the flower that you can smell in the simplicity of a moment, or taking a bath. Like sometimes these subtle shifts are really quite simple, and we just need to look towards the things that are actually quite just natural, that are really nourishing and life-giving.
Yeah.
And I think it can be that simple. I think we're speaking to like when we really can't see, like how to move forward.
Right. It can be so overwhelming to see the whole picture, as it always is with life. We will never grasp the whole picture of our existence and this universe. And once I realized that, I got really frustrated. We can only grasp little fragments. We never see both sides of the coin. It's hard. We try our best to. We try to understand each other the best we can. But we will never, ever understand all aspects of our existence, of life. And especially in those really dark times, I think it's important to just focus on the next thing, the closest thing that can lift you up in a minimal way.
Exactly.
Even if it doesn't lift you up, at least it takes your focus away for even a second from the pain, and that distance gonna make it easier to move forward, step by step by step.
Yeah, I think that a lot of our ancestors knew how to restore their energy. I think we knew how to charge our chi or our prana, I think that we come from ancestors who had practices to cultivate life force and move energy and somatically shake when we needed to release stuff. We had fires to gather around. We had stories to tell. We had rituals and ceremonies. We had rites of passage. A lot of us in the world don't have the communities or the containers, the rituals, or anything to help us walk through these evolutions of our path that we all go through. So a lot of us are just walking in the dark. A lot of us are like going through big, big changes, and we have no idea what it actually means. So like someone might think that they're dying, that they're literally crumbling, that they're in the dark night of the soul. But what I see is the butterfly trying to be born out of the chrysalis. But if you don't have teachers or guides or people who can guide you and help you remember that this is a part of life, this is a part of what we know. Because in this modern world, we're so disconnected sometimes. And we're just given all of this energy to deal with, and we're drained. We're trying to restore our energy, but we don't know how. And we're trying to move energy, and we don't know how. We're trying to graduate and evolve our energy, and we don't know how. But now we are so blessed with visionaries like you, visionaries like the people coming on this podcast, our communities, like people who are waking up to their power. It's like at some point, there's going to be so many of us who have remembered these ways and remember the path of the heart, remember the walk of the soul, and we just remind each other until it's the normal thing to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were so many beautiful things in what you just said. First of all, I really deeply resonate with the missing guidance. That's what I felt almost my whole life. You know, growing up in these environments that are disconnected literally from the heart, from the soul, from your light. It's so important to have guidance, and that also reminds you, exactly like you said, that it's just a part of your life. It's not the whole picture. You're not able to see the whole picture right now. You know, it's just a little phase, and it will pass as well. Everything always passes. That's also like a mission and a core reason why I'm doing this show, to, you know, provide a platform of more connected guidance, of more conscious leadership, of more connected visionaries. And why connected? Because, you know, I think that's the whole core of it, you know, like to be connected to your soul, to your core, to your heart, to your mission, to your truth, and speak from that place, from a more pure place, and create anything in life from that place, from not from the disconnect. And I think social media is also playing a huge role right now in our human evolution, and also in the evolution of guidance, you know, in both negative and positive ways. There's a lot of disconnect happening through social media, and there could also be happening a lot of connect through social media.
Yes.
So I want people to see more connected visionaries, artists, healers, teachers on their social media, to remind them, you know, because it's all information. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you see it on social media or in real life. It's all information that goes into your mind, into your brain, into your being, and then the being is doing stuff with this information all the time, you know, like the processing and how we navigate through our future in life.
I love it, girl. It's like, I think of like, all we're doing is feeding the field. It's like feeding the collective. Like what, your art, your words, spells that you're casting with your words, your poetry, the things you write in your journal, like the way that you make food, the way that you pray by the ocean, like it all matters. You're feeding the field. Whatever energy you're feeling or cultivating is the thing that's being amplified. And it's all interconnected. It's like the quote, we're a drop in the ocean, but we're also the entire ocean in a drop. You know, it's like that connectivity of like, you are the divine, like God is you. And like, we are all God. We're all collectively these different faces of the same source. And like, just like we see a lot of disconnection in the world, if you want to see more connection in the world, be the connection in the world. Feed the field. Bring your art, share your voice. Like, it all matters until every generation moves the needle more and more to that authenticity, more and more to the healing energy that permeates through the collective. It's the only way. And I think sometimes people get discouraged because they're like, well, I'm just one person in a sea of 8 billion people. Why does it matter? And like, imagine a world if 8 billion people said that all the time. We wouldn't be having this conversation.
There'd be no change. And I mean, my mantra is always, if you don't grow as a human, you die. There is no standing still. There's just not. Standing still even means dying, because we naturally, like, we cannot fight time. We'll just get older, and we'll get, the more stagnant we get, actually, is more, you know, dying.
I have a question for you. When you were a kid, what were you passionate about? And could you have ever imagined as a kid that you would be who you are now? Probably not, but I'm curious.
Ooh, as a kid, your question was, what was I most passionate about? Most passionate about arts, about creating, about expressing myself. I had trouble expressing myself through language. And I always found ways through art that, you know, dancing, playing music. I played piano and violin and singing and painting and dancing. Traveling was a big one, but my mom kind of taught me the wisdom of traveling, and then the benefits of traveling and learning. It was always about learning and growing and expanding, and learning about showing curiosity and tapping into your own curiosity about different cultures, about people that are different than you, questioning things very early. She's a teacher as well.
Wow.
She studied child psychology as well. Yeah, but even knowing that, there was enough still trauma and troubles and pain to run away from at the end of the day and kind of separate myself also. But yeah, most passionate about arts and experimenting, going into adventure, playing. Yeah, creating.
Exactly.
And I didn't imagine myself to be sitting in Bali and starting a really meaningful podcast and show and learning from the most connected artists. Again, yeah, I always feel drawn to creators and creatives. I think creativity and imagination is I keep saying that on the podcast as well. I think it's our super skill as humans, our supernatural skill almost, like to imagine stuff and to tap into our creative power. Like, yeah, we're beings of energy. What other being can imagine like non-real stuff and envision things that are not real yet and then decide to make them real? It's like we're magicians.
We are.
Yeah.
To make what has been unmanifest and manifest it.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
It's so powerful. It's the greatest gift that we've been given here on this planet, and we all have it. There's not one person that doesn't have access to that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So powerful.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Like as a kid, you just wanted to explore and learn and create. And then that's exactly what you continue doing. It's like, I really feel like some of the path has already been known to us as children, you know?
Yes, and the thing is, Picasso also said all kids are born creative, and as creators, we always try to experiment and adventure and tap into the new and try something that is impossible, but we still try.
Yeah.
We have this naive hope, that in some situations really saves us in a way, because, I mean, if we didn't have faith and hope in some really dark moments in our life, what else do we have? Sometimes that's the only thing we have and can hold on to. So where was I going with this? Oh yeah, we're all born as super creative and playful, and then like 90 or 95% of people, the also educational system and our societal system kind of trumps over it and kind of erases it. And of course it's way easier also to control people that are not questioning and not creative in a way and kind of more ingrained in the system. So in a way I was lucky to have followed my really rebellious soul. I believe all of our souls like deepest desire is to adventure and experiment and grow. And as you also said, growing and changing and learning is only possible in the unknown. There is no other way. If we only have those two options. Either we stay in our comfort and keep repeating old patterns or current patterns, including our limits and blocks, or the only other option is to go outside this comfort into what? Into the unknown, into a new thing.
Right.
And experience new things. And yeah, it's about learning the tools and mechanisms for our human being to kind of dance between those two worlds, to still feel comfort in the unknown and to learn and be open to learn new tools and get new information in, but also not lose ourselves completely in the unknown. It's like this intricate
such a dance.
Yeah.
It really is. It reminds me of this quote. I think it's by Michael Meade, and I'm not going to have the right words, but it's something along the lines of when the path is no longer clear, the journey has finally begun. So it's like it's kind of like the notion of only when you really lose yourself are you really finding yourself. Like when there's nothing that you need to uphold anymore, nothing that you need to convince or prove or do because it's the thing that you feel was written for you, that's when you can actually discover what's trying to emerge through you.
Yeah.
And I feel that it's such a delicate dance, like you said, this uncertainty and certainty.
Yeah.
It's like, I think visionaries, we need to get comfortable in the darkness. We need to get comfortable in the unknown. That's where we create from.
Yes.
Because where we're pulling information from has not yet been realized. So there's no one with a template or map or directions to tell you this is how you're going to live your dharma. This is your
Right.
purpose. This is how you would get that.
And every soul's journey is so unique.
Yes.
Also, all of our creations are so unique. There is no template, as you said. And we can only find out by finding trust in our intuition, in our faith that, in the guidance from the universe, and also being vulnerable enough to, and open enough to follow some higher guidance, not create from the ego. I mean, things need to move through you. Yeah, only when we truly drop everything that we ever thought we are, like our identity, our patterns, our beliefs, even our stories, our ties and attachments to our family and dearest people, and truly drop everything. Those moments in my life were the most liberating, I think, where I could completely recreate myself from the ground up, and truly listen, like when you have nothing left. For me, that happened in the monastery, where you literally detach from. It also really helps to detach from all the physical possessions you have and really live in, like, with nothing. Barely food, and just meditating and connecting to your soul. That's all you do for like 10 days. And eventually you're like, wow, I'm completely blank slate. I can be whoever I want to be now. And there's so much liberation and freedom of, in this space of infinite possibilities, expansion. Like, who do I really want to be? Apart from all the stories or patterns or belief systems, programming,
Yeah, and the invitation that will always be an ever unfolding path. Because, I was not the same person I was a year ago. I will not be the same person I am a week from now. And I think it's just this permission of always meeting life, always meeting the truth, always being authentic with yourself at that now present moment. And it's like just the acceptance that no matter where you're called, the path is not meant to be perfect. Like, there's no such thing as perfection, no such thing as imperfection. It's all just information. It's all just essence,
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes people are really afraid of becoming nothing to discover themselves, because they're like, what if I fail? What if I make mistakes? But the truth is, you are going to make mistakes.
Either way.
And you are going to learn things with ease. You're going to learn things the hard way. It's just going to be a whole melting pot of experiences. And I think the visionaries are just invited to show up for it no matter what, Just show up for it. Love yourself through whatever part of the journey you're on, whatever feedback you're getting from the universe, and just bring compassion into all of it, Bring compassion to this human experience. It's a lot to be a soul, figuring out how to be human in this modern world. So compassion is really the only way we're going to get through it.
Yes. Sometimes I do breathwork sessions and my soul goes on like some journey and expansion, different dimensions. And then after the session, it comes back. And I'm like, wow, it feels so weird to be back in this limited human experience. Yes, but I mean, there's so much to learn, especially within these limitations, and trying to stretch them and playing this dance, of lightness, darkness, comfort, discomfort, certainty, uncertainty.
Right. And it's like the tantric way. It's like, if you're sad, then just be really sad. If you're angry, just let yourself be really angry. If something is delicious, relish in it. Like, it's just whatever you're doing, turn it up to 100 and really be that.
Feel it fully.
Exactly.
Oh, now something lit up. Even like our soul by itself being completely infinite, ever expanding and full of light and love and like this really high frequency, I think. And in comparison, we have our human body, which is super limited and, has capacities, and we cannot suddenly fly or, So it's like, again, this dance that goes on even within us, of trying our soul tries to expand within us
Yeah.
and looks always for growth and yeah, light and love. And our human being, you know, we have our mind, our
Yeah.
ego that comes with it. That is the opposite in a way, you know, that is kind of,
I want to keep you safe.
I want
It's
to
my
keep you
job to keep
safe,
you
and
safe.
I will make you small, and I will, you know, let you stay in comfort and kind of, you know, put some roadblocks in your spiritual path to keep you safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like we could never experience what expansion or victory or overcoming obstacles could really be without that perfect dance partner, the shadow, you know?
Yeah.
It's like when the soul makes a move, the shadow makes a move, and you're just like, okay, let's dance,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's the duality. It's the yin, the yang. Here we are starting where we began. It's the yin and the yang that creates life, and it's how we know anything. It's like you know happiness by knowing when you weren't. You know your freedom by knowing when you were totally restricted.
Yeah.
And so just remembering that everything is in service to evolution, even the darkness. Everything is for you. Everything is by design, and I want to keep coming back to that like thing we talked about. What if nothing in your reality is coincidence? What if all of it is literally designed for you? There are 8 billion, potentially even more, incarnations, people on this planet having their own subjective experience.
Yeah.
You know?
It's crazy if you think
It's
about it from a
really
distance.
crazy.
Like everyone living completely their unique, different reality. We always forget that. We always think everyone has experienced reality like we are.
Yes.
Not at all. Completely different. Everyone completely in their own world.
Own world.
And that's the beauty of love and intimacy, when you do come together in one specific constellation of energy or under one certain umbrella of, you know, in this space we are actually feeling very similar. You know, we're sharing a little part of reality that we both now feel very similar or even the same frequency. And then when two souls meet under a same frequency, wow, magic happens. Yeah.
Truly. Yeah, I think eliminating the illusion of separation is the path that we're all on. And it's again like integrating what was once opposite. Now we're merging worlds. Now we're bridging worlds. And the same with people. It's like, let's get people who want to unlock certain energies in the universe or want to create certain impact in the universe. Let's get them together, exchange ideas, come home to one another, share information, expand each other's frequencies, you know? That's a part of the joy of why we're here, you know? It's to meet our tribe and to also find, even when someone is not like you and it's not the most comfortable situation, finding even then the thread that connects you to,
Yeah.
you know?
So we all have this light in us that our light will connect to.
Yeah.
Even if it's really hidden sometimes in some human beings, but still it is there. Otherwise they wouldn't be here, I think.
Right. And just for nuance, that doesn't always mean that we need to make everything and everyone our friend.
Right.
Sometimes the lesson is like, wow, there's so much dissonance here and so much information that actually love in this moment is boundaries. Love in this moment is to afford someone their ability to be themselves and allow yourself to be you and take care of your needs.
Yeah, it's
you know?
almost like creating your space, safe space back, you know.
Yes. Yes.
When it gets too challenged or too stretched into the discomfort, especially being comfortable in the uncomfortable. I think the key in that lies to find our safety within, you know, like even in the most chaotic situations, to still always find home into our body, into our soul, like to hold this connection. So at least we have that, and that's the strongest anyway. To like, to manage the uncomfortable better and go into the unknown. Yeah, it was such a beautiful conversation. I love
This is beautiful. Wow. Oh, there it is. All you really need to do is sit down with two people and just let the magic unfold. Yeah.
Yeah,
Love
yeah,
it.
beautiful. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your souls and human being wisdom from this life experience and maybe some past life experiences and just in general. Yeah, thank you for being here with your presence and beautiful energy, with your light and shadow. Yeah, with the whole spectrum. It was a really beautiful conversation. I loved how we went to different directions.
Yeah.
Is there anything as last words you want to share? Anything else that needs to come through? Any advice you want to give, aspiring artists or visionaries or conscious future leaders or anyone, or even current leaders?
Yeah, yeah. For some reason, of all the things that I could say in this moment, I'm really feeling the essence of how important it is to create a world that we would want our children to live in. I think for some reason, I want to speak on behalf of the new earth children, the advanced souls that are incarnating, they've been incarnating, and they will continue to, that I believe are actually here to create the new earth that we all know is prophesized and that we're all a part of. And I believe that a lot of us at this age, in this generation, have been clearing the trauma, clearing the ancestral information to set a new pathway for these children so that they don't have to. Because I believe that we're all preparing in some way for these really big changes, and we might not see all of the changes possible in our lifetime, but we have absolutely changed our ancestral lineages for the better. Each and every one of us are leaving this planet better than we found it. And I think something that I come back to, if I think of like why I do the things that I do, I think of the inner mother in me that is like, I do the things that I do because one, it's good for my inner child, but also because like I know that at one point my story is going to be a legacy that my children will know of me, and I will be the future ancestor of my lineage. I will be a spirit guide or an ancestor that's helping maybe my children's 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 children. You never know, in the field of spirit and energy. And so it's like with this precious life that we've been given, this biological clock in this biological spacesuit, I just think it's so beautiful to like expand out sometimes and remember how precious this gift of life is that we've been given, and the creative force that lives in all of us. And our decision is how we want to play and how we want to create it, how we want to speak it, sing it, dance it, project it, who we want to work with, and how we want to leave these legacies so that we leave this place better for the children that are to come, And ultimately heal the inner children in ourselves that are wanting to live in the liberated way that, we know is actually possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, I completely agree. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your beautiful last words. I think that sums it up pretty well.
This has been great. I'm so happy to be here. This is beautiful. Thank you, Karina.